What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's real talk, sports talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and let's talk a little bit of Jets football because I finally had a chance to marinate for the last couple of days on the embarrassing Black Friday loss to the Dolphins, 34-13. And the one thing that I kept playing in my mind all weekend is, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point? I mean, there was so much promise going into this season. And I know that, most of that hope and promise was all stemming on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers. We finally had a quarterback that we can say gives us a great chance to win every single Sunday. A quarterback that gives our team an opportunity to be a playoff contender and possibly a Super Bowl contender. And then he gets hurt 4 plays into the season in typical Jet fashion. But still, all in all, how did we get to this point? I mean, 4-7, our playoff hopes are pretty much shot. And we are statistically probably going to go down as one of the worst teams in the history of football, especially when it comes to third down efficiency and third down completion percentage. That's just crazy to me. It really is. And let me start by saying that on my last video on Saturday, I ranted about Joe Douglas needing to be held accountable for this. And trust me, I don't go back on that at all. I think that Joe Douglas needs to be held accountable for what's happening this year. For him not to have a backup plan in the event that Rodgers went down, to me, is just criminal. It's a fireable offense. And even if you didn't have a plan going into the season, once he got hurt, you should have done everything and anything possible to get a veteran backup quarterback in here in the event that you were going to see incompetent play from Zach Wilson, which we all thought was a possibility based on what we saw the last couple of years. I don't know how they didn't think that was a possibility. The best thing for Zach would have been to be redshirted, sit back and watch, regardless of what happened to Aaron Rodgers. The intention should have never been to play him. Because if they thought that just 2 months or whatever it was, sitting behind Aaron Rodgers during OTAs in the preseason was going to automatically fix him and turn him into an NFL caliber quarterback, well, guess what? That didn't work out so well. Zach Wilson needed much more than just 2 months of OTAs and preseason sitting behind Aaron Rodgers to even be remotely thought of as a quarterback that was fixed and could potentially lead an NFL team during the regular season. But they didn't do that. So I absolutely hold him accountable for what's going on right now, especially with what's going on with the offensive line. Sure, we've been decimated by injuries, but a GM's job doesn't stop once the season starts. In fact, a GM's job gets harder after the season starts because now you have to try to do whatever it takes to either improve the roster on the fly or to plug in holes because of injuries or ineffective play or whatever it is. So you're constantly trying to look for upgrades up and down the roster throughout the regular season. And I know that's harder. When you have an offseason to do that and you have an offseason to be able to work the phones and trades and scout players, it's a lot easier to put a team together. But again, in my opinion, a GM's job is judged on what they do after the season starts, how they make those adjustments, how they pivot, and what they potentially do to address the weak spots so that he still gives the team a chance to be competitive. And in my opinion, he just didn't do enough of that. To sit back and basically do nothing to try to upgrade or help out a decimated offensive line, to me, is a fireable offense. And let me start by saying I'm not a Joe Douglas hater. In fact, I think Joe Douglas has done a very commendable job. I really do. I mean, he's our best GM since Mike Tannenbaum. Those teams that Mike Tannenbaum and Eric Mangini put together that got Rex to 2 AFC championship games, those were 2 solid rosters, all built around excellent offensive line play. He is the best GM by far that we've had since Tannenbaum, because the ones that we've had in between, what was it, Izzik and McNagnon, those guys were just horror shows, disasters. So for him to come in and pick up from the mess that was left behind with Adam Gase and basically turn this roster around and get us some young talent and put a solid team all together, I mean, it's a commendable job. I mean, I give him credit. He has hit on some draft picks. He hasn't hit on some, but he has hit, on a few. And the ones that he has hit on have been obviously very good picks. I mean, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall will go down as his 2 best picks. The offensive and defensive rookie of the year in 1 year. I mean, for that to happen, I mean, that's pretty much unheard of. So there are some good things that he's done. And I was a Joe Douglas supporter right until after the whole Aaron Rodgers trade. Because I knew then and there, well, what happens if Rodgers gets hurt? Are we really going to rely on Zach to be the backup? I don't know if that's a right move. But I really didn't give it a lot of thought, because just like any other Jeff fan, I was thinking, I mean, well, chances are Zach Wilson isn't going to play because we have Aaron Rodgers, right? We have Superman. But again, injuries happen, things happen, especially when you put on a Jets uniform. So I should have saw that coming. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think he's done a good job up until the point where this season started. And this is where he severely dropped the ball. And right now we're a 4-7 team that is not going to make the playoffs with, in my opinion, talent on this roster where we should easily be a playoff team, especially in today's AFC, which is a total mess. It's up for grabs if you ask me. This would have been the season for us to be able to make some noise if we had been totally healthy, or if we had gotten halfway competent quarterback play and good play calling. But here we are. And then I'm thinking like Robert Saleh. What do you do? What do you do? What would I do if I was Robert Saleh? Because Robert Saleh, like I said, I think he's a good coordinator. I think he'd be a great coordinator on any NFL team. In fact, if he was fired on the Monday after the season, he'd be a coordinator by the weekend, I would bet. But he's not a good head coach. I'm sorry. I think he's a good guy. I just don't think he's head coaching material, especially in this market. The Jets are beyond broken offensively, and you could tell he has no clue on how to fix it. So then I started thinking, what would I do if I were him, realistically? Because if you look at the options, they aren't great either. I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly walking into that quarterback room tomorrow to help save the rest of the season. So you got to work with what you have. So what do you do? What do you do realistically? So I started thinking, and I came up with 5 things that if I were Robert Saleh, I would definitely do going forward. I don't think he will do them. In fact, I doubt he will do them. At least most of them I don't think he'll do. But these are 5 things that I would do going forward to at least salvage the rest of the season, finish off on a positive note, and go into next season with some momentum. Don't get embarrassed by losing the rest of the games. They say Aaron Rodgers wants to come back by Christmas Eve, during the Christmas Eve game against the Commanders. I personally think that's a mistake, but if he wants to come back, let him come back. I think at the very least, the Jet fans deserve to at least see what we could have saw this year for at least a couple games. So you know what? If he wants to come back, let him come back. But let him come back to something that is somewhat positive. Let's show the rest of the league that maybe this is a destination that free agents will want to come to next year when hopefully we're fully healthy. So these are these 5 things that I would do right off the bat, starting with number 1 is I would definitely strip Nathaniel Hackett of his play calling duties and demote him. I'm not saying fire him. I say you just strip him of his play calling duties and then have him reset and give it a go next year with Aaron Rodgers. In fact, I'd like to see what type of an offense he runs with Rodgers. I mean, he was brought here to work with Rodgers. What type of chemistry are those two going to be able to have as far as play calling? So I kind of feel like there's a little bit left to be desired here. So I don't necessarily want him to be fired, but he shouldn't be calling another play the rest of the season. I mean, you have some options here. They may not be the best options, and I don't know. But as the Bills proved 2 weeks ago, when they fired their offense coordinator and promoted Joe Brady, sometimes a different voice in that meeting room, scheming up game plans, it helps. It works. It provides a spark. The Bills on offense are playing, in my opinion, the last 2 weeks, they're playing really, really well on the offensive side of the football. They've simplified the game plan. They're running the football. I think the Jets need to consider doing the same thing. Let's get a different voice in those meeting rooms. Let's get a different voice calling plays. I mean, you have Todd Downing. I know the passing game has sucked, and he's the passing game coordinator, but I mean, he has over 20 years of coaching experience. 23 years to be exact. Maybe we give him a shot. Keith Carter, the offensive line, run game coordinator, 11 years experience. It's no secret we've been begging for us to be more creative running the football. Maybe if we give him a shot, we could see some creativity. We could see something different. You got Ron Middleton, 14-year tight end coach. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, during Hard Knocks, I think he either coached the preseason game or he coached one side of the green and white game. Maybe we give him a shot. Rob Calabrese, the quarterback coach. Bright young guy. Actually had some success with Mike White last year. Actually had success with everybody except for Zach Wilson, because it seemed like everybody that came in there at quarterback last year had success in the offense except for Zach Wilson. Maybe you give him a shot. It really doesn't matter because, in my opinion, I don't think anybody could be worse than Nathaniel Hackett. In fact, if you give me an opportunity, I think I would be like years better than him. So that would be the first thing I would do, first and foremost. Second thing I would do would be start Trevor Siemian. No disrespect to Tim Boyle, but Tim Boyle, in my opinion, just isn't an NFL starting quarterback either. I mean, he had no success in college. I wouldn't say he was piss poor terrible on Sunday, but he wasn't good. He's not the answer. You're not bringing Zach Wilson back in at this point. I mean, I think that's why Robert Saleh was so hesitant to bench Wilson, because you figured once I do that, there's no turning back. He'll never play another snap for us. So you're not going back to Wilson. Nor do I want them to go back to Wilson. I've seen enough from Zach Wilson. But I've also seen enough to be able to say that I don't think Tim Boyle is the answer either. And I'm not saying Trevor Siemian will be the answer either, but you might as well try something, anything. I mean, at least Trevor is a veteran. He's battle-tested. He's started in this league. He's played for a ton of different teams under different offensive coordinators. So you want to think that at the very least he can read defenses. He's seen that part of the game. Let him get a start. I mean, realistically, Zach Wilson isn't in your plans anymore. I don't think Tim Boyle is in your plans. And neither is Siemian. But at least give us an opportunity to kind of salvage our season on the offensive side of the football. Maybe a new voice as coordinator and Trevor Siemian, the veteran. Maybe that'll help provide some spark on offense. The third thing that I would do if I was Saleh is I would just stick with this offensive line. If healthy, I would start Dwayne Brown and Becton at the tackles, Max Mitchell and Laken Tomlinson at guards, and Tippmann at center. And hopefully these five can find some kind of continuity for the last 6 games of the season and at least be respectful. That's what I would do. I wouldn't play Billy Turner anymore. I wouldn't play the other guy that they put in there. I even forget his name. The third string center. I wouldn't put him to play anymore. Play those 5 guys. Unless one of them gets injured, those should be the 5 that you start and you hopefully finish the season with. Number 4. One of the things that I would do right off I've been begging for this for weeks is hold your players accountable. Please, no more penalties. Hopefully last week was the start of player accountability. I don't know if Quinton Jefferson was taken out of that game because of the penalty, or the stupid personal foul penalty, or he just was taken off the field because of a defensive rotation. But if it was the latter, start holding your damn players accountable, because these penalties are just unacceptable. We're not good enough to be able to shoot ourselves in the foot and have a chance to beat any team in the league, especially with the way we play offense. Get in a player's face. Pull them out of the game. Threaten their playing time. That's the only way players are going to respond, when you threaten their playing time. And I've been saying this for weeks. But again, that will be on the top of my list. That first player, every game, that commits that stupid pre-snap penalty that negates either a big play, a first down, or a touchdown, he's getting pulled and he's not playing the rest of the game. Period. And then the fifth thing that I would do if I was Robert Saleh is, and it goes in conjunction with the coordinator and hopefully the quarterback change, is show some creativity. God, I mean, this offense is worse than a high school offense. I was thinking the other day, I think high school offenses on Friday nights are better than what we've been seeing. So I apologize for calling the Jets an high school offense. This is a Pop Warner offense. It's predictable. There's no creativity. You got to get some creativity going on the offensive side of the football. Let these young guys play. You're not making the playoffs. That we know. So at the very least, let these young guys get some playing time and see if they can provide that spark, that energy. I mean, draw up some pitches, some sweeps for the running backs, not just Brees. See if you can get Izzy Abanikanda involved. He shows some explosiveness in preseason. Let him get some burn. Before you drive Brees to the ground anyway, running him up the middle. Draw up some creative plays. I mean, some bubble screens, some wide receiver screens. Try to get, Gibson and Brownlee in some space. Maybe some end arounds, some double reverses. Motion the wide receiver. When you call a hike from the shotgun, pitch it to him and let him get a running start. You see all these different teams doing this stuff. If I was the Jets, I would definitely look and mirror and try to mimic Miami's game film. See what they do. Look at what they do on offense and try to mimic that. I know you don't have the personnel. You don't have Tua at quarterback. You don't have Tyreek Hill. I get that. But you can try to mirror their game plan, what they do offensively. Their head coach, Mike McDaniels, has done an excellent job with that offense. Look at some of their film and try to mimic what they're doing and try to be creative. That's the only way we're going to be able to muster any type of third down success. Getting yardage on the first two downs is imperative for us so that we're in third and manageable situations. And it gives us a better chance to convert on third downs, hopefully get into the red zone. And God, let's score some damn touchdowns, man. This is an offensively driven league. I can't believe that we're this inept and we're not doing anything to fix it. So these are the 5 things that I would do immediately if I was Robert Saleh. And hopefully with these moves, we'll be able to at least finish the season strong. And that's all I care about at this point. Anyhow, let me know what you think. Feel free to drop a comment. Do you agree with some of the things that I would do if I was Saleh? Is there anything else you would do that I didn't bring up? I mean, I love hearing your comments. I really do. But at the end of the day, I'm just hoping that at least the Jets are respectable going forward. I don't want us to be embarrassed anymore. It's tough. We've had enough. The fan base has had enough. For God's sake, let's at least see some competent football going forward. Anyway, let's hope things change this week. But we'll see. Part of my gut tells me that they're going to do the same exact thing. They've already said they're starting Tim Boyle, so they're not looking at Simeon. My expectation would be that if Boyle is ineffective, at least pull him at the half and see what Simeon can do in the second half, especially if the game is close, or even if it's not close. Try something different, and hopefully it changes. Anyway, like I said, feel free to drop a comment, and if you are new to watching my videos, please subscribe and definitely hit that notification button so that you are alerted anytime I drop any new content, any new videos. And as always, I thank everybody for watching. This is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout Spot, and I'll talk to everybody soon.